What's going on YouTube? It's your boy Cam ATL. Shout out to the DFS squad. Shout out to everybody watching this video right now. Drop a like down below because I already know you're gonna love it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Make sure you comment anything down in the comment section to enter your name into the $50 giveaway that I do every single week on this channel. Welcome back as always. This is the week 15 final look breakdown video. As you know, earlier on in the week, we built an entire lineup together. Didn't get too in depth with all the plays. We just talked about the guys we put into the first look just off gut reaction to the slate. And now on this video, we're going to go position by position and talk about all of the players that we have interested in. We're going to talk about some values. We're going to talk about the spend ups, all that good stuff, and kind of get a good grasp of how to handle this slate. We have been dominating NFL lately. Greenlightdfs.com, join the squad. Let's go ahead and get straight to it, all right? Starting off at quarterback. Now, you guys know I don't go in any particular order, okay? I go from like what I'm really, really loving down to what I'm least loving, all right, in kind of an order. Now, the quarterback I'm really looking at, right? So in the first look lineup, I talked about some cheaper quarterback options. The more the week has gone by, the more I love Kyler Murray at 5'6", okay? Murray is too cheap for a guy that gives you a solid floor with his feet, okay? On top of that, he is at home in Arizona. He's going against a Cleveland team that should score and get up, which means Murray will have to do a lot of throwing the ball. Okay, so I can see like 40 pass attempts. I know the last few weeks he hasn't been great, but I'm expecting one of those type of performances like we saw week 9 through 11, 23, 30, 26. I'm expecting a good performance here. After the 3 interceptions last week, expect him to come back here at home and bounce back in a big way. I think he's going to have a very solid 20-plus production. I'm thinking 25 even possibly. So I really like Kyler Murray a lot at 5'6". He is my favorite quarterback overall with price included, all of that, because he is just way too cheap for a guy in the situation that he's in right now. And I think he bounces back in a big way at a cheap price. All right. Other guys that we can consider, I really like Jameis Winston. He was limited. He's dealing with a thumb and a knee issue. He had a cast over his right thumb, which is not great. But he's throwing a little bit. If he's able to play, then he's definitely interesting for GPPs at 6'9". I don't love him for cash games because it's definitely not safe. But there's a lot of upside to be had here if that thumb doesn't bother him in a dome in Detroit here in this matchup. So Jameis Winston's a solid option. I think Patrick Mahomes in GPP is fine at 7'1". Let's see. Ryan Tannehill is interesting to me at home in Tennessee. We actually called the last week's performance of Tannehill and A.J. Brown. They went off together. And this is another amazing situation here because Houston's going to score on Tennessee. Tennessee's going to have to throw a lot. And Tannehill's going to be another great option. But at 6'5", he's just too expensive. Okay, when you have Deshaun Watson at 6'8", you have Baker Mayfield in a good matchup at 6'4". You have options like Kyler Murray at 5'6". You don't really spend 6'5" on Ryan Tannehill. So I refuse to spend that on Tannehill. But in GPPs, he's interesting because nobody's going to have him. If he drops a 30 against Houston, you're ahead of the curve. All right. Another guy I want to talk about is Jimmy Garoppolo at 6'1", going against my Atlanta Falcons. Okay, he is at home in San Francisco. Atlanta is atrocious, and I think San Francisco can win this game pretty handedly. Mozart's been running the ball really well for San Francisco. I don't think they're going to need much Garoppolo in this one. I think they get up early and just run the ball a ton. So Garoppolo in GPPs is a little interesting just in case Atlanta tends to keep games close that you don't expect them to keep close. So if they keep this game close, Garoppolo could go crazy. But I'm not, like, if I had to predict game script, I'm thinking San Francisco gets up early and then a lot of Mozart, stuff like that. And I think they just pound the ball with their running backs. All right. Other guys that I have some interest in. Honestly, Jared Goff against Dallas, I think this is going to be a battle. I think both teams are going to keep it fairly close. I think both teams are going to have to throw a good amount. And at 6'1", he could have a very good game as well. I could easily see a 25 out of Goff this week, and I would not be surprised at all. Anybody else that I'm interested in? Really, it's Kyler Murray at the top end. It's Jameis in GPPs. As long as he's able to throw the ball, he's fine. Patrick Mahomes as well is right there around Jameis at 7'1". Against Denver, though, I don't know how much he's really going to have to do, but we know what Mahomes possesses, know the potential he has. In GPPs, Tannehill is also a okay option. Jimmy Garoppolo for GPP. Who else are we interested in? Let's talk like super cheap. Outside of Kyler Murray, we have David Blow. Now, I talked about him earlier on in the week. This dude is a decent quarterback. Okay, Stafford probably will not be coming back this year. He's at home in Detroit, which is a dome. I always love quarterbacks in a dome. He's only 5'3", going against Tampa Bay, a very bad secondary. Him and Kyler Murray are the best spend-down options. These are the ways I would go. If you don't want to go with either of them, the only other option is Eli Manning at 5'2". The problem is Pat Shurmur says he wasn't sure which one was going to start Sunday against the Dolphins. So keep an eye on that. Eli played fairly well in their last game. So at 5'2", keep an eye on Eli. If he does get the start, he's a solid spend-down option as well. So it'd be Murray, Blow, or Eli. I'm leaning Murray as my favorite option. And then you want to get slick. Like if you want a GPP spend-down quarterback, it would be Blow or Eli. All right? Let's go ahead and talk about running backs. All right. So what sticks out to me on this slate is Saquon Barkley's price. Now, I completely understand this dude has not been very good this year. He's been a major letdown, okay? Pretty much because, like I said in the beginning of the season, the issue with Saquon this year is going to be that they have nobody else. When you have a distraction like an Odell Beckham on your team, it draws attention to that player and opens up the run more. Now that their best other player is Sterling Shepard or Golden Tate, they're not really having to do that. They're forcing New York to just beat them through the air with their rookie quarterback or Eli Manning, which makes complete sense. Okay? Don't let Saquon beat you. At the end of the day, though, at this matchup, at this price, I think Saquon could have a breakout game here against Miami at home in New York. I really like him at 7-7. I think he's a very solid option this week, and he's a guy I'm definitely interested in. Another guy that I'm interested in right around this price is Chris Carson against Carolina. Carolina's been one of the worst run defenses in the entire league this year. I think that Seattle's going to be able to handedly win this game. So I think Carson's going to get a ton of run here. He gets a ton of run anyways. So, and on top of that, Rashad Penny is out for the season. So that's even more run for Chris Carson. So Chris Carson is a very solid cash game option. If you're worried about Saquon, I completely understand going Chris Carson. Those two are one and the same this week. I really like both of those options. All right. Another guy, speaking of workload and big time amount of carries and all that stuff, Leonard Fournette gets a ton of looks in this offense, whether it's through the air or on the ground. He's one of the highest guys in the league when it comes to usage in his offense. Fournette's going against Oakland, which isn't the ideal matchup, but off usage alone, he's always a cash game back. All right, now let's talk about Christian McCaffrey a little bit, because the last 2 weeks, we really don't want a 24 out of a guy we're spending over 10K for, okay? His price did drop down. He hasn't been 10K since week 9. So that's a good sign. He should have some play in the... Obviously, in cash games, this is probably one of the safest running backs in the entire league. If you can go McCaffrey, don't even second guess it. Go McCaffrey. You know what I mean? If you can go with him, that's fine. Okay? Because he is super safe. So I'm not going to sit here and say I don't like him. Okay? But there are some value options on this slate. We do have some 7K range guys that are really intriguing who could match McCaffrey potentially. So it's not a must, but if you have that money left over, I don't see why not at all. And I just want to make that clear. McCaffrey's always an amazing cash game running back. All right. Another guy that I want to talk about is... Let's talk about some value-ish guys. All right, let's go to the value-ish guys because those are the main spend-up guys. Laird against the Giants, okay? Now, we know Laird is the main guy for Miami now. He's going to, on a regular basis, get you about 10 to 15 Draftkings points. He's never really going to break the slate, but he's going to be a solid performer from here out. Going against the Giants is a great matchup here. Only issue is if the Giants, well, not much of an issue, really, because if the Giants get up big, Laird's still going to get some pass games. Get some targets in the pass game. He's been getting some solid targets. He got 5 targets last week in the pass game. So regardless of the game script, Laird is going to be involved. And at 4-5, I really like Laird. Another guy that I really like is Kenyon Drake. I think Drake is a solid option. We've seen the type of upside that Drake possesses. At 5,000, he's more of a GPP. I'd prefer Laird for cash games. But at the end of the day, Drake's got some big upside in a matchup against Cleveland. Should get some targets in the pass game. So I think Drake is a solid value play. Anybody else that's a super value play? Yeah, I wanted to go ahead and talk about Adrian Peterson again. I understand the matchup against Philly isn't amazing, and he has been missing practice with a toe issue. Geis is already on the IR, okay? He's really the only guy. If Peterson misses, it's going to be a ton of like Chris Thompson, Wendell Smallwood, okay? Which is good value, and I think Thompson would probably be the play there because I think Washington's going to be down a lot. Let me pull Thompson up. Okay, Washington's going to be down a lot, and they're going to have to throw a ton. And if Adrian Peterson misses this game, Thompson becomes a guy that I am really strongly looking at. All right, he already gets a ton of pass in the pass game. Look how many targets he got. 8 targets in the pass game against Green Bay last week. He's only 3-9. If Adrian Peterson misses, he's going to get some okay run. Like, he's not a big back, so he's not going to get a ton of carries. He's not one of those type of running backs. But he's going to get a ton of attention at running back in general. And at 3-9, he's amazing value. So Chris Thompson is going to be very important to keep an eye on because this dude is an amazing value this week if Adrian Peterson tends to miss with this toe issue. And he's been missing practices. All right? Anybody else that I want to talk about? Yes, I want to talk about Phillip Lindsey going against Kansas City. This is another guy that really intrigues me. There's a lot of 5K to 8K range guys that are really solid options this week, and Phillip Lindsey's one of them. First of all, he's going against the Kansas City defense that's one of the worst run Ds in the entire league. They're bad versus the pass too. Phillip Lindsey is one of those type of guys where he's going to get plenty of run if they're up. He's going to get plenty of targets in the pass game if they're down. It's just good either way with Lindsey. I think Lindsey could have a huge, like, slate type of breaking performance here. We know the potential he has, like the 29 against Green Bay week 3, the 27 against the Chargers week 5. Like, he's got crazy upside, and this is the type of matchups you would expect him to really excel in. Okay, with this game being in Kansas City, you just don't want it to get too crazy out of hand like they did earlier on in the year. I believe early on in the first game they played, the game got so out of hand that it ended up really hurting them. Yeah, 6-30. They got stomped. He only got 4 Draftkings points, 11 carries for 36 yards. Didn't even get many targets in the pass game because they were just down so much. So, but expect Lindsey to have a good game. Who else do I want to talk about? I want to speak on James White a little bit because this dude is a very consistent target in the pass game. And against Cincinnati is so bad. I wouldn't be surprised to see like some breakout game from James White. I really wouldn't at 5-4. Anybody else? That's about it. That's all I want to really talk about at running back. That's all the guys that we're really interested in. All right, now we got a lot to talk about at wide receiver. We got some really good values like we talked about in the first look. And some spend-up guys that are great options. So let's go ahead and get straight to it. Now, starting it off, I really love Chris Godwin, man, at 7-7. I mean, the dude already, like you see on the screen right now, he averages almost 9 targets a game. But now, it's just going to be a ton of targets, okay? It looks like it says he's likely to see an increase to his targets of 8 So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see him average over 10 targets while Evans is out. And in this matchup against Detroit, it is beautiful, okay? In a dome, in Detroit. Like I said, the only question mark is, will Slay follow him? That is the only question mark. But I expect them to move Godwin around. I don't know if they're going to move Slay all around following Godwin. But we'll have to keep an eye on that. Also, you will want to keep an eye on Winston's health because that's a big deal with Godwin. But either way, Godwin is in a great spot, and I would not be surprised to see him have a huge game this week. All right. Another guy that I want to talk about, Odell Beckham has been participating in practice. It looks like he probably wants to be traded once again. That dude is like a horrible teammate to have on your team. He's always whining and got some type of issue. But if he happens to miss, obviously you guys know Jarvis Landry at 6'7" is going to be great. Devontae Adams is banged up. He's been limited a little bit. If he misses, we're going to have some good value. He's not a guy I'm super interested in this week against Chicago, though. The guys that I'm really interested in is I really think that Tyree Kill could have a huge game for GPPs at 7.5. His price is fairly low here for the type of upside that he has. Okay, he's got that 29-36 upside like he showed week 9 and week 10. He's got huge upside. These cornerbacks for Denver are really solid, but they are nowhere near fast enough to hang with Tyree Kill. He could definitely blow them out and have some huge plays in this game. Some other options. I really like Robert Woods against Dallas. I think it's a great matchup for him. He's been playing extremely well the last few weeks. He's been getting a ton of targets. 18 targets that he got week 13. We had him in our lineup, by the way. He went absolutely nuts for 172 yards. Almost got another 100 yards against Seattle last week. I think that Goff's really starting to rely on him and just throw him the ball a lot, obviously. And against Dallas, this is a good competitive matchup. I think Woods is going to be a very solid option. All right, anybody else that I'm really wanting to go? We've got some other options, obviously. Kenny Golladay is in a fantastic position. Without Marvin Jones, his usage also is going to rise significantly. He's going to get some good targets. I'd expect 10 or more targets here for Kenny Golladay. Going against Tampa Bay, great matchup, especially if Winston plays to keep Tampa Bay in this and keep this game fairly competitive. It's not like Detroit's really good anyway, so I'm not worried about a blowout either way. Even if Winston doesn't play, I don't think it's going to be a blowout. But Kenny Galladay's in an amazing spot here at 7-2. He's going to get a ton of targets and could see the end zone multiple times. I would not be surprised at all. All right, let's talk about some other guys. I mentioned Tannehill. Once again, if you go Tannehill, don't overthink it. Put A.J. Brown with him. We called that last week, and then he got 5 catches, 153 yards, and 2 touchdowns on 7 targets. All right, now he's going against Houston, an amazing matchup once again. He is expensive, so that if you're going Tannehill and GPPs, just pair him with A.J. Brown. Don't overthink it. All right, now guys that you compare, you guys know I love Murray. Guys you compare him with is Christian Kirk. He's been a little limited, so keep an eye on that. Obviously, if he misses, Larry Fitzgerald's going to go off, and some other value for Arizona is going to be great options. But Kirk at home, I think he's going to play. Kirk at home in Arizona going against Cleveland here. Murray as our quarterback that I really love at 5.5. He seems like a very solid option for value. Some other guys that I want to mention. Let's talk about Nelson Agholor. Now, I hate talking about him. Okay, I really do. But Alshon Jeffrey was placed on the injury reserve. So they're only going to be down to Isaiah Whiteside, Greg Ward, and Robert Davis as their only healthy guys for Week 15. This is a great matchup against Washington here, so keep an eye on Nelson Agholor. He didn't practice on Thursday, so we're going to have to keep an eye on it, obviously. But if he plays at 4K, it's very sneaky. All right, I really like Nelson Agholor there. Let's talk about some other guys. I think Watson and Perryman. Justin Watson at 3.7 is expected to see a large uptick. He got 8 targets last game when Mike Evans left out against the Colts. He got 16.9. He got in the end zone. 8 targets is a very good sign. He's only 3.7 going against Detroit in a dome. I think he's more of the benefactor than Perryman is. So Justin Watson is the guy that I'm more intrigued with to go, but I love Perryman as well. Perryman's very sweet, a very good option, but he's 800 more. So these two guys are kind of depends on. Let's say you need some money, dropping from Perryman to Watson's completely fine. If you don't need the money, then Perryman's probably the bigger play guy who could have a bigger game most likely. But Watson obviously showed last game that when Evans left out, he got a ton of attention. And that 8 targets is very interesting. And remember, like I said, if Slay follows around Godwin, one of these guys is going to explode. So keep an eye on that. Try to figure out which one's going to be the one. At this moment, I'm not 100% sure. I'm leaning Watson, probably the guy I'd rather, just because he's cheaper and saw 8 targets after Evans left last game. So that's very intriguing. So keep an eye on Justin Watson. But don't forget about Perryman as well. He's fine. All right. Other guys I want to talk about. Danny Amendola. Sorry, I'm at running back. There's no way I'm going to find Amendola at running back. And if I can spell him right. All right. Danny Amendola at 4.1. He's been seeing consistent targets. Now he's going against Tampa Bay. No Marvin Jones. I expect Danny Amendola to see an uptick as well, not just Kenny Golladay. Now, obviously, when you think about Detroit, the only real weapon you think of without Marvin Jones is Kenny Golladay. So, if the game plan for Tampa Bay is to come in and double team Galladay, make it rough on him and make Blow beat him other ways, it's going to be Blow to Amendola, and it's going to be a huge game for Amendola. Now, when I say huge, Amendola is not a guy who's going to drop like a 30 or something and go ridiculous. I could see a 20 or more, though, just off pure targets and receptions for PPR and Draftkings. I could even see over 100 yards. I would not be surprised. At 4-1, I really love Danny Amendola in this matchup, so don't sleep on him. We have a lot of fantastic options on this slate. I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of different ways you can go this week. Larry Fitzgerald, if Christian Kirk misses, Larry is a very consistent option, okay, especially if Kirk misses. Fitzgerald's going to get a ton of targets, and he's going to be a great option here against Cleveland. Murray's going to need all he can get if Kirk misses. I think Kirk's going to play if I had to guess, so I prefer Kirk, but Larry at 4-3 is pretty damn cheap. Another guy that I like is Dede Westbrook. We talked about Chark being out. Once again, this is another guy who's been limited, and at the end of the season, you really got to keep an eye on these things because teams could be playing it real safe with some of these guys. But if Dede Westbrook plays with DJ Chark out, I really love him at 4-6 against Oakland. Bad secondary who should be able to score, keep this game competitive in Oakland. I think Dede is a great option at 4-6. Chris Conley's a sneaky option with Chark out at 3-6. And that's about it. All right, let's go ahead and talk about tight ends. All right, now, when it comes to tight end, it looks like Greg Olsen should be missing again, but let me just verify. He remains in concussion protocol as of yesterday, so that's not good. So expect him to miss again, and Ian Thomas is once again on the radar. Good matchup against Seattle. Carolina should be down. I love the fact Thomas saw 10 targets last week. So that makes Thomas an amazing player at 3-1. Expect him to see a ton of targets again in a game where they should be down. And they're at home in Carolina. Ian Thomas is an amazing option at 3-1. If you're wanting to spend up for GPPs, you don't have to overthink it. George Kittle at home in San Francisco is a great option, especially if you're in a GPP and you're playing Jimmy Garoppolo. Don't overthink it. Pair him with George Kittle. All right. Other options, obviously, Darren Waller. Another guy that I really, really like this week is Tyler Higbee. All right. We'll have to keep an eye on Everett. Matter of fact, let's check on Everett right now, because if Everett misses, obviously, Gerald Everett is still considered day-to-day at this moment. So if Everett misses, though, guys, we know the type of potential Higbee has, so keep an eye on that. Against Dallas, it's a solid matchup, and he's only 3-9. This dude has been getting crazy targets, dude. 26 and 21 DraftKings points the last 2 weeks. Play Tyler Higbee at 3-9 if Everett is out, okay? I would even rather just pay the $800 more for Higbee than I would Ian Thomas, because this game is going to be more of a competitive game, and I think you could see Higbee get open a lot in this game, all right? So I think Higbee's an amazing option. He's my favorite spend down option. Like I said, look, I talked about Ian Thomas a ton. Now, if Everett's back, I love Ian Thomas the most, okay? If Everett's out, I like Higbee the most. And then Ian Thomas is second, and then you got the spend-ups of like Kittle, Waller, Kelsey, that type of thing. All right, let's move on from tight end. You guys know how I feel about tight end. And you pretty much know the guys I love the most. All right, now, talking about defense, you always have two choices. You could spend up all the way. If you think a defense is going to drop a 20-something and score some defensive touchdowns, go right ahead. In GPPs, go right ahead. All right, but you also sometimes get lucky and get those cheap defenses that have very, very, very good performances. All right, and we've got some guys in good spots this week. All right, we've got the 49ers against my Falcons. I hate to say it, but my Falcons are just not very good. San Francisco's at home. They could do very, very well here against Atlanta. They could get up here, and then Matt Ryan makes some mistakes trying to catch up. The Patriots defense, they cheated already. I mean, they literally saw all their plays and saw their hand gestures and all that stuff. They pretty much got some insider intel. The Patriots don't know how to not cheat. I've already talked about this. I'm not going to get too much into it. Look, my Falcons should have won that Super Bowl years ago, all right? And I'm never going to give it up. They probably cheated. They must have cheated. Matter of fact, before that game, see, now I'm going on a rant about it. See, before that game, there was a drone went over the Falcons practice. Who do you think that was? Bill Belichick was in his backyard sitting there with his little drone looking at it and trying to read the plays and stuff, just hovering the drone over the Falcons practice. That's the only reason they came back and won that game. Okay, but anyways, defensive options, if you're spending up, 49ers and Patriots are great choices. If you're spending down, I like the Green Bay Packers against Chicago. I like the Lions if Winston misses. I really like the Lions at home at 2-3. So keep an eye on the Lions. The Giants are interesting at home against Miami at 2-7. Fitzpatrick's been playing fairly well, but he's a solid option. And that's it. So I'm either spending up for the Patriots or 49ers. I think I'm more likely to spend down and go a Lions, especially if Winston is out. Well, yeah, no, if Winston plays, I'm not going the Lions. If Winston misses, the Detroit Lions are like almost a lock at 2-3 at home in Detroit. The Giants are really, really interesting at 2-7. They're probably going to be a defense that I'm going to have a lot of exposure to. I really like the Packers a lot here because the weather there is supposed to be like horrible. Matter of fact, before I close out this video, let's talk about the weather real quick and talk about the implications because of the weather before I head out of here, okay? All right. So real quick, let's talk weather. So Chicago and Green Bay game, it looks like it's going to be freezing. There's going to be like a what do you call it? A blizzard type of thing going on. It's going to be crazy cold. It's going to be below 20 degrees. It doesn't show too bad of an impact. Like the pass and the run doesn't really get too much affected just off playing cold. But obviously Green Bay gets a bump here because Green Bay loves playing in this cold. Chicago too, though. They both get super freezing cold games. This game's probably just going to be like uncomfortable as hell. If I was a football player, I'd fake an injury. If I was on one of those teams this week, I'd be hurt, to be honest. I'm not doing that. We might have a snow game in Kansas City. There's some possibility of a little bit of rain. If the ball's slippery and all that, that's good for the run game. So fire up some Lindsey. Miami, New York. It looks like there's probably going to be the most wind out of all the games in this game right here, which is going to affect the pass, which is really what Miami is desperate for to catch up in this game, with the Giants most likely getting ahead. If I had to guess, I would say that Eli starts. But either way, I think whoever starts, I think the Giants should be able to get up on Miami, but they're both horrible teams, so I'm not even going to sit here and try to predict that. But either way, it's super, super windy in this game. And yeah, field goals are obviously going to be affected, but we don't play kickers over here. The long ball is going to be affected. Short little passes aren't going to be affected. So like guys like Golden Tate, he's not going to get affected by this weather or anything like that. But it definitely does take a notch down on the pass game. So Saquon gets a little bump here, and Laird gets a bump as well. And that's about it when it comes to weather. Everything else is going to be perfectly fine, so don't worry about anything else. All right, thank you guys for joining me as always. Drop a like down below, subscribe to the channel, comment anything in the comment section. Let's smash Week 15.